Hi, Rocio. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We'll wait a couple minutes to get started. Welcome, everyone, to Roll Talk. This is our second episode. And as you're logging in, as you're joining us, please feel free to drop in the chat where you're from, what kind of small business you own or are starting, and all of your questions for us. We're here for you today. So give us some good, juicy things to think about. All right, just a couple seconds. All right, looks like we have a good group of people here, so I'll get started. Welcome, everyone, to Roll Talk. This is our second episode, and this is a virtual series put on by Roll by ADP, where we give you insights, tips, tricks, and best practices from industry leaders, different businesses, to help you run your business more efficiently. My name is Allison Wells, and I'm a marketing manager here at Roll by ADP. With summer coming up, we know seasonal hiring is upon us, and we know finding qualified employees and hiring those employees is an overwhelming challenge in the small business space today. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that with my colleague, who I'm pleased to know and share with all of you, Rocio. So I know you a little bit, but why don't you tell the group where you're from, how you got to your job, and maybe why you're here today?
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me today, Allison. It's great to see you. Hi, everybody. My name is Rocio Mendoza. I am from El Paso, Texas. I'm currently one of the HR solutions managers here with ADP. I've been with ADP for about 7.5 years. But I do have more than 18 years in the HR background. So my background is in recruitment and employee relations and with lead. So happy to be here today.
That's great. And that's certainly going to help us get started into our hot topic of the day. So let's dive into some of those challenges. And I'm going to hit you right from the start with some hard questions, if that's okay with you.
Let's do it.
So we're lucky enough to know that ADP Research Institute just conducted a study of small business owners where they said they're having a hard time hiring employees. Now, what are some ways that small business owners can attract reliable employees in today's day and age and their hardships?
It's a great question. It's definitely something that we do see in those small businesses. And one of the biggest items that we like to talk about is, what are your hiring practices? Do you have something already in place, or is that what you need help with? What do I mean by hiring practice? It's, do you have job descriptions in place? Are you able to talk about the position for anybody who asks you those questions? And in addition, how are you leveraging technology in order for you to be able to post and get that word out that you're hiring? One of the biggest items that we also like to recommend, don't forget the staff that you already have. How are you engaging your current staff and your current employees for potentially getting you those referrals when you have those openings available? You'd be surprised how just communicating with them to let them know that you have a job opening or two, the word can get around that much faster, especially when you have an engaged staff.
That's a great tip and so simple yet so effective. We know word of mouth marketing works the best, and it should be the same for hiring. Why not? And so, since summer's right around the door, and we're going to talk seasonal employees, how can small businesses or entrepreneurs ensure that their employees are going to come back next year or maybe join them full time? That's a long time to go in between hiring cycles. So, how can we help these businesses project that a little bit better?
Great question. Now, one thing that we always like to talk about is having that open communication with that seasonal employee. What dates are they going to be working for you, and when can they truly expect that call back for a follow up if you're wanting to go ahead and bring them back? Is it a 3 month gap, a 6 month gap? Is it a 2 week gap, depending on how your business is doing? So it's really important to keep that open communication with them and really doing check ins. Nothing wrong with just doing a check in when they're actually off employment or they're not with you. A quick text, a quick email if you have that communication with them and asking, hey, how's it going? Looking forward to seeing you back in. Insert your month that you're
Right?
bringing them back in. That
Mhm.
goes a long way, especially it gives them just for those that are pre-planning, right? Maybe they have something in between and they know when they can expect to be back with you.
Sure. That Again, simple but effective. I love this. And I'm sure our small business owners are loving it too. And we're seeing a lot of comments come through, a lot of questions, which is very exciting. So I'm going to try to consolidate some of the ones we've seen that are common. And so it seems like some of these small businesses are struggling with absenteeism and people not showing up to work. How can we help give them some ways to avoid that from happening?
Great question. It's definitely been something that's a little difficult to handle. One of the items that I would like to just put in as a best practice is before the absenteeism starts to happen, are we having those conversations with our staff members? And are you getting a whiff of any maybe potentially burnout? Is something happening? Are things really busy where, maybe you could be, or that you're short staffed and that you have to hire quickly? Are those conversations being had before that absenteeism starts? Another item that is also a little difficult also to begin to have is, do you have a policy in place? And are your employees aware of the policy in place if there is absenteeism? Of course, my HR brain is already going into, oh my gosh, there's states that have regulations, there's states that have paid sick leave, and we cannot address absenteeism until those hours are used. However, there's nothing wrong with asking and having a conversation of, are you really okay? What's going on and how can I support you? Showing that empathy as a business owner and as a leader of these employees goes a long way, and they'll open up to, you can understand the situation a little bit better and see how we can handle before they call in.
Yeah, that's great. It's a lot about building and maintaining those relationships in a trustworthy work environment too. I think that spans a lot of problems small business owners are facing anyway. Another question I'm seeing, and this is before somebody even joins your team. So we're getting some questions about interviews. And what I think everybody wants to know is what question can they ask potential candidates that will reveal the most about them when they are an employee?
I love this question. Yes. And hiring process, right? The interview process is a crucial part of that. One of the best questions that you can ask as a business owner is, how do they approach tasks that are challenging? That's always important to leave those questions that are open-ended so that you're truly wanting to get a response from that person. Avoid those yes or no's, but you want to ask them that specific time. And why is this question important? Because you're going to be able to see how are they going to handle something that is challenging, and what are they sharing with you? Is what they did for that particular challenging situation that they're sharing with you, does it align with the goals of your business? Does it align with the values of your business? Or is it something that is completely separate to what you're wanting to offer? And that question goes a long way. Another question that can be a little similar is, can you describe a work conflict that you had to, provide a solution to, or how did you tackle that work conflict? We know that work conflict, it happens, right? It's okay. It's part of that process. However, what you want to be in tune with or aligned to is, how are they truly tackling that conflict, and are they using those skills? Is it a team building skill? Is it a teamwork skill? Or are they doing something different that, again, doesn't align with what your business is going to offer or has in place and what you've done in the past? So those are two great questions that you can truly see how they are able to tackle that challenging environment.
That's great. And it really is a big tell about how they'll be a fit for you and your business. That's wonderful. I hope everybody wrote that down. So watch this back later again to get those again. So another one, and I think we have time for one more, is one of these small business owners regularly conducts background checks, which I think is a good practice, or sounds like a good one. You're the expert. But they want to know when they should rescreen employees. Is it if they're rehiring them? How should rescreening work?
Great question as well. And it's definitely aligned to our seasonal businesses, right? If we are furloughing them, or meaning they're going to be on an absence or a leave of absence for that time, we don't typically have to rerun that background at the point that we consider bringing them back. However, if for some reason we had a situation where we may have maybe terminated an employee or something happens and you're looking at rehiring them, and part of your practice is running that background, then yes, you want to go ahead and ensure that you run that so that you have a consistent practice. And now you have somebody who didn't just leave for a specified amount of time. Rather, you're bringing them back and you're following the practice that you have for all of your staff.
That's great. Very simple. Makes a lot of sense. So I know we're getting close to time here, but I'd love the audience to get to know you a little bit. And I hope audience, we answered enough questions. Please drop more questions in. We will try to get back to you as many as we can, but let's spend some time getting to know Rocio. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Are there any additional questions before we get to that? Just want to ensure that we have a little bit of time and tackle them. And I'm just wondering from, the comments that you're seeing, is there any type of questions that you should avoid? And I know that's always a big topic. So if that's not in the comments, I'm going to let you know. That's okay with everybody. Before we get to those, one of the questions that as we continue talking about hiring is, there's certain questions that we shouldn't ask or that we want to avoid. And one of them is, how many sick days did you take, right? Kind of going into the absenteeism piece that we were talking about. We don't want to have that as part of the hiring process, because then it could put us in some risk, because they could end up sharing such maybe a medical conditions going on, or they have something that could impact. So you don't want to get caught in those types of questions, because that could pose a risk to you if you're asking that up front. In addition to that, you may also want to look at, especially for those seasonal employment, and of course, depending on your industry, can you work weekends? I know that's always a huge question that we want to say, like, can I ask that? Can I not ask that? My recommendation would be rephrase that. Let them know what your hours of operation are. Again, that open communication, and ask, are you able to tackle on these hours, or are you able to work these hours? That's a better way to align and understand what truly is their schedule, and are they going to be able to work at the hours that you have.
That was really great. And thank you for sharing that so much. That was really helpful. So are you ready for rapid fire questions?
I'm ready for rapid fire, yes.
Okay. So hopefully these are easier than the ones the audience asked, but we'll see. Hard book or Kindle?
Kindle, many books in one.
Yeah. It's easier on the backpack, right?
Yeah.
Road trips or air miles?
Road trips. Love conversations in those.
Oh, that's a good point. Spring or fall?
Fall.
Winter or summer?
Winter.
Winter or fall?
Ooh, fall.
Fall wins them all.
Yes.
I agree. Beyonce or Rihanna?
Oh, that's such a hard one. Queen Bee, gotta go with Queen
Bee. I know. She wins always, doesn't she? And finally, what is the best piece of advice you have ever been given?
That's a good one. Was that rapid fire question? Let's see.
I changed the rules.
Yes. So I love that question. And I think the one that always resonates with me is be yourself. You don't have to change the way that you are. You can accept feedback, but you don't have to change the way that you truly are, your values, your beliefs, for somebody else. So the more that you truly show your genuine self, lead with heart, others will follow. And it'll be simpler without you having to change who you are.
I love that. That is so nice and soul touching to everybody. Everybody can find something in that, right? And so that is all the main topics we have today. So I am so thankful to all of the small business owners, founders, entrepreneurs who have joined us on this chat. We know all of you out there are wearing so many different hats. You are running your business. You are your own accountant. You are your own HR manager. Sometimes you are everything to everybody. And we so appreciate the work that you do in the small business space. So Rocio, what are some words of encouragement that you have for everybody attending today as it pertains to their teams? Maybe they want to grow and expand. What do you have to say for them?
That's a great question, Allison. And I think to mirror what we had discussed earlier is you do wear many hats, and hats off to you, right? Because you're doing so many things at once. But one big takeaway is don't be afraid to ask for help. You can hand off a couple of hats to those the team members that you have. You have them there, trust them to ensure that they're going to be with you and they're going to do the right thing. And that way you're able to offset some of those things so that you co-focus on what's more important for your business.
That's great. You hired them, you must trust them, give them some of the load, right? So that's all we have today, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have more questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. We will try to gather them later on. But also, we have a blog on rollbyadp.com. There's a lot of good, helpful insights there as well. And as always, stay tuned for the next Roll Talk episode. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Allison.
Hi, Rocio. It was so nice to see you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.